Power is not granted. It is seized, forged in shadows, and maintained by the ruthless. Today, we uncover how to rise from nothing and command influence when the world assumes you are powerless. In every human society, the meek perish quietly while the cunning ascend. To hold power is to understand the hidden currents of fear, desire, and opportunity. In this guide, we will strip away illusions of fairness and morality, exposing the raw mechanics of influence. Here, we confront the uncomfortable truth. Greatness is not inherited. It is claimed, often at the cost of comfort, sentiment, and the naive belief in kindness. Prepare yourself to observe the world as it truly is, and to learn how to bend it to your will from the void of obscurity. Do you see what others overlook? Most walk blindly through life, blind to the fractures, the openings, the subtle gaps that separate the powerful from the powerless. You must learn to observe, to detect the invisible currents that shape opportunity. From nothing, you can rise, but only if you master the art of seizing what is unseen. Consider the streets of Renaissance Florence. A young Medici, unknown to the common eye, moved silently through the networks of bankers, merchants, and courtiers. He watched, he waited. He struck not with brute force, but with careful calculation. The advantage he seized was not in armies or titles, it was in the invisible threads of influence, the whispers, the debts, the favors owed. What does this teach you? Power is often hidden. The advantage you seek is rarely advertised. It lies in the overlooked, the underestimated, the ignored. Ask yourself, how many battles are lost not to strength, but to inattention? How many opportunities vanish because the weak are blind to the openings the world offers? You must cultivate the sight of a hawk and the patience of a serpent. The world rewards those who act with precision, not haste. You are not meant to follow the path that others walk. You are meant to find the path they cannot see. History is littered with the corpses of those who failed to perceive opportunity. Take the case of Julius Caesar. His enemies were powerful, entrenched, and confident. Yet, he noticed a gap in their unity, a hesitation in their consensus. He seized it with decisive brilliance. Crossing the Rubicon was not merely an act of courage, it was the exploitation of a weakness invisible to most. He understood that advantage is rarely given. It is discovered, claimed, and secured before the world even realizes it exists. Do you notice the parallels in everyday life? The boardroom, the marketplace, the social sphere, these are battlefields of subtle openings. A colleague underestimates you. A competitor overlooks a small flaw in their plan. A friend misjudges your ambition. Do you act, or do you wait for fate to hand you what you desire? Waiting is for the mediocre. You must strike where others fail to see the strike is possible. This is not cruelty, it is vision. Those who rise from nothing must do so with eyes unclouded by sentiment. Consider the merchants of Venice, whose fortunes were built on understanding the unseen, where a market would falter, where a trade would collapse, and where the slightest insight could turn ruin into wealth. They moved before others even knew a movement was needed. This is your lesson. Advantage exists, but it favors the prepared, the calculating, the vigilant. You may think this is unfair. You may feel that opportunity should arrive at your door. That is the illusion of the weak. Power respects no sense of justice. It bows only to those who recognize openings others do not. And here lies the first truth of rising from nothing. What others neglect, you exploit. What others fear, you confront with strategy. What others ignore, you claim as your own. Imagine a chessboard. Your opponent focuses only on the obvious moves, the ones they see clearly. But the true master studies the spaces between the pieces, the hidden lines of attack. So must you. Every ignored weakness is a weapon. Every silent hesitation is a lever. Every invisible opening is a chance to pull the world toward your favor. And yet, the question remains, can you see what is unseen? Can you resist the temptation to follow the crowd, to wait for permission, to surrender to the familiar? To rise from nothing, you must trust your vision, sharpen your perception, and act before the world even realizes the opportunity existed. You must learn to strike quietly, decisively, and without hesitation, because in the end, power belongs not to the fortunate, but to the observant and the relentless. So, watch closely. Notice what others dismiss. Listen to the silence between conversations. Observe the pauses, the overlooked gestures, the cracks in confidence. Your first advantage will always be discovered in what no one else perceives. And when you claim it, you will understand the cold truth. The world bends to those who act where others hesitate. But identifying opportunity is only the beginning. Seizing it requires more than vision. It requires strategy, manipulation, and a ruthless understanding of human behavior. And that, my observer of shadows, is where we turn next. Do you control how the world sees you, or do you allow the world to define you? Perception is a weapon, sharper than any sword, heavier than any army. To hold power, you must first command the image you project. For men and women judge not only by what is, but by what seems to be. And in the theater of influence, what appears true often outweighs truth itself. Consider the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. He did not merely lead armies. He sculpted the perception of inevitability. Every uniform, every parade, every calculated rumor whispered to the people of France reinforced a single message: he was destined to command. Could he have won battles by skill alone? Perhaps. But without the careful crafting of his image, the confident stride, the strategic presence, the aura of certainty, his victories would have been far less potent, far less complete. The world obeys those who seem unstoppable, those who appear inevitable, those whose very image intimidates rivals before a single word is spoken. Ask yourself, how often do you allow perception to slip through your fingers? How often do you assume that truth will protect you? You must learn to treat appearances as tools, as instruments of influence, as extensions of your will. The marketplace of human ambition is unforgiving. To be invisible is to be irrelevant. To appear weak is to invite attack. To neglect the power of perception is to surrender your fate before the battle even begins. Look to history again. Consider Queen Elizabeth I. She understood the art of projecting strength even when vulnerable. She controlled the way she was seen by allies, enemies, and her people. The careful cultivation of her image, her speeches, her portraits, her calculated gestures allowed her to navigate the treacherous waters of court intrigue with a precision few could match. She demonstrated a simple truth. Perception can bend reality. If the world believes you are strong, clever, and unassailable, it will act as though you are. And once the world acts in your favor, reality inevitably follows. But this is not a call to deception alone. It is a call to awareness. Every interaction is a mirror. How do others perceive your confidence? Your competence? Your inevitability? Every word, every pause, every gesture communicates volumes. Are you aware of the subtle impressions you leave behind, or do you allow them to form randomly, dictated by habit or fear? If you are not shaping the story will shape you, and often to your detriment. Perception is not static. It must be cultivated, maintained, and adapted. Consider the merchants of Venice, masters of both trade and reputation. Their success was not built merely on skill or capital, but on the carefully maintained perception of reliability, wealth, and influence. A single misstep in appearance could unravel decades of work. Yet, those who mastered perception flourished, even when their actual resources were modest. The lesson is clear. The world obeys appearances as much as reality, and often more so. Ask yourself, what would you change about the way the world sees you if you could? What small shift in manner, in tone, in presence, could make allies more loyal, rivals more cautious, opportunities more forthcoming? Control perception not for vanity, but for strategy. Make others believe in your inevitability, your capability, your untouchable presence. When perception aligns with ambition, the world bends before you even attempt to command it. And yet, beware the trap of arrogance. To manipulate perception is to walk a fine line between credibility and illusion. If your image is exposed as false, your enemies will exploit it mercilessly. The true mastery lies not in appearing something you are not, but in amplifying what you are in ways others cannot ignore. Confidence, skill, ruthlessness, these qualities must be projected with subtlety, consistency, and purpose. Every conversation, every glance, every silence carries weight. Every decision you make is amplified or diminished by how it is perceived. You do not merely act, you stage. You do not merely speak, you signal. You do not merely exist, you are observed. And in this observation, power is won or lost. So, look around you. What image do you project right now? How do the world's eyes measure you? And more importantly, how could you bend that perception to your will before rivals even realize the game has begun? Do you treat relationships as bonds of loyalty or as instruments of advancement? Most people are blind to the power that lies in human connection. They think friendship is pure, alliances are sacred, and loyalty is given freely. Foolish. Every bond carries leverage. Every connection can be a weapon. Every ally can be a stepping stone or a trap. To rise from nothing, you must see the truth. People are tools, and you must learn to wield them with precision. Consider the court of Louis XIV. The Sun King was surrounded by courtiers, ministers, and nobles, each eager for influence, each guarding secrets, each plotting advantage. Yet he thrived because he understood the calculus of relationships. He rewarded, he feared, he rewarded again. He orchestrated alliances and rivalries, balancing loyalty and suspicion, so that everyone served his power, even as they believed themselves independent. Do you see? Influence is not brute force. It is manipulation of networks, a mastery of psychology. Those who control relationships control outcomes. Ask yourself, do you notice the dynamics around you, or do you blindly trust that others will act in your favor? Your friends, your colleagues, your acquaintances, they are never neutral. They observe, judge, and respond to every move you make. To underestimate them is to surrender your advantage. The clever strategist anticipates these responses, shaping interactions to achieve objectives while remaining untouchable. The wise understand that influence is the currency of power. Without it, even the strongest ambition is impotent. Look to history once more. Niccolo Machiavelli himself advised princes to know how to use men, and not to be bound by conventional morality. Think of Cardinal Richelieu in France. He did not rely on armies alone. He relied on webs of loyalty, fear, and obligation. He cultivated alliances while subtly undermining threats, often turning enemies into instruments of his will. Every relationship was analyzed. Who could serve him? Who could betray him? Who could be persuaded to act unknowingly on his behalf? Could you see the same patterns around you if you tried? Consider your own circles. Who leans toward power? Who resists? Who is blind to opportunity? Every interaction holds potential. Every conversation can become leverage. A compliment, a question, a gesture of trust, each can be used to extract information, to secure favor, to manipulate perception. Relationships are not passive. They are active tools to be sharpened and deployed. And when you act strategically, even allies who think they lead may unwittingly carry your designs forward. But mastery of relationships is subtle. It requires patience and cold observation. You cannot force loyalty with words alone. You cannot command obedience without first understanding desire. People follow those who see their needs, who manipulate their fears, who promise advancement, even if only the illusion of it. A smile, a quiet word, a favor given and later recalled, all these become levers in the hands of a careful strategist. The greatest advantage is not in ruling openly, but in directing the flow of influence invisibly, so that others do your work for you without realizing it. Ask yourself, what relationships in your life are assets, which are liabilities? Are you using them to build power, or are you being used? The world does not reward naivety. It rewards those who can manipulate subtly, who understand human ambition, and who can bend the loyalties of others to serve their own rise. Every ally can serve. Every friend can advance your agenda. Every observer can become your instrument, if only you see clearly and act decisively. Observe the patterns in your environment. Notice who envies, who fears, who seeks favor. Learn to give and withhold, to reward and punish, to guide subtly while seeming absent. Relationships are chess pieces, some sacrificed, some advanced, all moved according to your strategy. Do you have the patience to see the board clearly? Do you have the discipline to act where others hesitate? To rise from nothing, you must. And remember, control is never absolute. Allies may falter, rivals may feign loyalty, opportunities shift like shadows. This is why mastery of relationships is both art and science, a delicate dance of observation, anticipation, and influence. Those who succeed are those who can manipulate without attachment, who wield connections as tools rather than treasures, who turn human ambition into their own ladder to power. So look carefully at the web around you. Who serves? Who resists? Who can be guided? And know this: once you master the art of relationships, the game changes entirely. But perception and influence alone are not enough. What comes next is the ultimate test, the exploitation of weakness and fear, the hidden engine that drives obedience and shapes destiny. Do you understand the true nature of weakness? Do you see fear not as a hindrance, but as a tool? Most people recoil from it, deny it, or mistake it for something to be avoided. You, however, must learn to recognize it, to dissect it, to use it. Weakness and fear are the levers of influence. Those who understand them can bend the strongest wills to their own designs, quietly, invisibly, without open conflict. Consider the strategies of Tsar Peter the Great. Russia was backward, fragmented, and feared by its neighbors. Yet he saw the weaknesses within his own court and nation, and exploited them with precision. He rewarded loyalty and punished hesitation. He played nobles against one another, exposing insecurities, magnifying fears, and ensuring that every move they made served his ambition. Fear was not merely a tool, it was a structure, a foundation upon which power could rise. Could you wield the same understanding in your own life? Ask yourself, how often do you fail to observe the insecurities around you? How often do you act as if people are rational, predictable, and noble? The truth is far more brutal. People are guided by fear more often than by reason. Their anxieties, their desires, their doubts, these are the invisible chains that govern behavior. The one who sees them, understands them, and manipulates them becomes inevitable. History offers countless lessons. Take Cardinal Richelieu, again, a master of human calculus. He maintained his position in a court rife with envy and ambition because he knew exactly how to apply pressure, to exploit hesitation, and to turn private fears into public compliance. Ministers feared his insight. Rivals feared his reach. Allies feared their own dependence. By exploiting weakness and fear, he controlled not just action, but thought itself. Power, therefore, is not only in what you command, it is in what others dare not do, because they anticipate consequences you have orchestrated. Do you perceive the subtle signs around you? A trembling voice, a faltering handshake, a glance that avoids confrontation. These are clues. Every human interaction contains threads of vulnerability. The ambitious strategist pulls these threads carefully. A word here, a suggestion there. A subtle threat, unspoken but understood. These are the mechanisms by which influence is imposed without overt aggression. You must learn to see fear as a map, weakness as a guide. They reveal not only how to dominate, but when to move. The manipulation of fear is an art of timing and subtlety. Consider the military campaigns of Sun Tzu, even centuries before our time. Victories were often won not on the battlefield, but in the minds of enemies. He understood that a commander who controls the perception of threat controls the enemy's behavior. The slightest suggestion of inevitable defeat can topple armies without a sword striking. So too in life, those who anticipate weakness and shape fear can achieve triumph with minimal confrontation, while others fight blindly and perish. Ask yourself, do you strike boldly at the first sign of vulnerability? Or do you wait until the moment is precise, when fear is amplified and hesitation is at its peak? Impulsiveness destroys power. Observation cultivates it. You must know when to push, when to retreat, when to whisper, and when to let the silence do the work for you. Every human mind is a battlefield. Every action, every pause, every unspoken word can be weaponized. The strategist recognizes that control begins not with strength, but with understanding the fragility of others. And yet, beware overconfidence. Exploiting weakness requires subtlety. Misread a fear, exaggerate a threat, or misjudge a hesitation, and you turn potential advantage into disaster. The true master acts with precision, using knowledge of fear and weakness as a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Every human mind is delicate, reactive, and full of hidden currents. To navigate these currents is to move unseen, to direct behavior without being resisted, to achieve outcomes that appear effortless to the observer. Look around you. Who fears, who hesitates, who doubts? Every person has an Achilles heel. Every ambition is tempered by uncertainty. And every moment contains an opportunity to bend these realities to your will. The question is, do you see it? Do you act upon it? Because knowledge of weakness and fear is only the beginning. To truly command, you must integrate it into strategy, into perception, into the very architecture of influence. And that, my ambitious observer, is where we turn next. Do you understand that power is not seized in a single strike, but built, layer by layer, in silence and patience? The ambitious often seek instant dominance, but greatness is the result of incremental authority, of careful accumulation, of moves calculated across months, years, and even decades. From nothing, you rise not through impulsive boldness alone, but through persistent strategy, relentless observation, and the steady application of influence. Consider the rise of Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He did not storm the Senate and claim absolute power overnight. No, he moved meticulously, consolidating control piece by piece. He built loyalty among legions, manipulated perception among senators, exploited rivalries, and cultivated fear and respect in equal measure. By the time his authority was undeniable, the world believed it was inevitable. Authority grows incrementally, and those who attempt to leap too quickly often fall before they rise. Ask yourself, are you patient enough to build in layers, or do you chase the illusion of immediate power? Every action you take, no matter how small, must advance your authority. Do you give orders that subtly assert dominance? Do you command attention in meetings, in conversations, in social spheres? Each gesture of competence, each demonstration of confidence, each calculated display of influence reinforces your growing presence. Authority is not shouted, it is felt, perceived, acknowledged, and eventually obeyed. The world submits first to those who seem competent, then to those who seem inevitable. Look to the merchants of Venice, masters of subtle accumulation. They did not become wealthy through one grand venture, but through decades of careful trade, alliances, and reputation management. Every contract, every calculated risk, every cultivated relationship added another layer of authority. They understood that visibility without credibility is useless, and credibility without perception is invisible. Authority is layered. It is constructed, not discovered. Ask yourself, what small actions are you taking today that will compound into influence tomorrow? Every favor granted strategically, every insight shared selectively, every minor victory amplified is a building block. Authority thrives on momentum. It grows quietly at first, almost imperceptibly, until one day it dominates the landscape, unquestioned, unchallenged, and absolute. Are you sowing these seeds, or are you waiting for fortune to plant them for you? Even the great generals of history understood this principle. Alexander the Great did not immediately command an empire spanning continents. He began with small victories, building the loyalty of his troops, securing the confidence of his officers, and establishing unquestioned authority in each conquered city. His incremental dominance created an aura of inevitability. Every measured step, every calculated decision, every act of visible competence reinforced his growing authority. The world bent because he had built it piece by piece, never overreaching too soon. And yet, building authority demands vigilance. Power is never secure, even when it appears absolute. Rivals watch your ascent, allies grow ambitious, and the slightest miscalculation can undo years of careful accumulation. You must anticipate challenges, exploit openings, and consolidate gains relentlessly. Authority is not static. It is a living structure, requiring constant maintenance, reinforcement, and adaptation. Are you prepared to guard each layer, to reinforce it before enemies find weakness? Observe your surroundings. Who underestimates you? Who doubts you? Who remains blind to your steady rise? These are the gaps to exploit, the opportunities to cement authority further. Every interaction, every decision, every calculated risk is a chance to reinforce your growing presence. Authority, once perceived, becomes self-reinforcing. People obey, not merely because they must, but because they see obedience as inevitable. And that inevitability is born from patient, incremental accumulation. Ask yourself, can you endure the slow, deliberate work of building dominance? Can you resist the temptation of shortcuts, of instant gratification, of reckless boldness? The ambitious falter because they underestimate the power of persistence. The wise understand that the climb from nothing is a careful orchestration of small, consistent victories. Each day, each action, each moment is another brick in your empire of influence. So, look forward. Consider every choice, every interaction, every subtle maneuver as a layer in the authority you are constructing. This is the true path, from obscurity to power, from nothing to inevitability. And now, having learned how to seize opportunity, control perception, manipulate relationships, exploit fear, and build incremental authority, you stand on the threshold of the ultimate lesson, the art of unassailable dominance, where power becomes not just possession, but destiny itself. Power is unseen. Influence is silent. The greatest control comes not from force, but from subtle manipulation of minds and desires. Do they follow because they must, or because they believe it is their choice? That is the question every strategist must master. You have learned to observe openings where others are blind. You have learned to craft perception, to turn relationships into tools, to exploit fear, and to build authority piece by piece. The world bends to those who act in shadows, who strike without notice, who guide others while seeming absent. Do you feel the weight of this truth? Do you understand the danger and the opportunity it presents? Now, it is your turn. How will you wield what you have seen? What chains will you pull? What subtle levers will you press? Comment your thoughts below. Reveal your insights or conceal your ambitions. Subscribe and return for more strategies to master power unseen. Share this knowledge only with those sharp enough to grasp it. Remember, influence is silent. Domination is inevitable for those who act.